Okay, fine. So now let's move on to the next last section. Okay, so where we'll discuss about the output parameters or return values. Okay, so whenever you execute a stored procedure, okay, so it returns an integer status variable, right? So usually a zero indicates success and non-zero indicates failure, right? So the what is the main difference between the output parameters and when to use output parameters and return values? Just remember, so when we are executing the output parameters, okay, so it returns an integer status variable. Okay, so when we discuss when we discussed about the return values, okay, so we'll be getting an error. Okay, so whenever we are not returning the integer status. Okay, so here you can see, so here same thing. Okay, so we are creating a store procedure. Okay, sp get total count of employees 1. Okay, so here our total count is basically output parameter. Okay, so here we are just storing the count id. Okay, so where we initializing total count from the table employee. Okay, so now we are just declaring the normally. Okay, so here we'll return an integer output. Okay, so here, so we are able to achieve what we want. Okay, using the output parameters of the return values. Okay, so now let's look at example where the return status variable cannot be used. Okay, so in that terms, okay, so here you can see, so here we're using the return. Okay, it's not output parameters, even though we are mentioning here output, but in the so this is for the output. Okay, so we, this is how we declare and this is how we execute, and this we how we select, like of course to print the total count. Okay, total employees count. This is with help of the return. Okay, you can see the syntax is slightly different. Okay, so how the we have included encloses the bracket as a brace. Okay, you can just do it as an assignment. Okay, so here this is how we call it. Okay, so the store procedure when we are doing return statement. Okay, so here this is how we use the return statements. Okay, when we are writing the integer, right? So you can see the output here is int, here also output is int. Okay, so you can see output is int. Okay, so now when we can't use the return statements, okay, so with the same example, okay, so here we are passing the id. Okay, so and now the store procedure is returning the name of that particular id, like whatever the id we are passing with respect to that. Okay, so the name associated with that id will be returned. Okay, so here the now the return output is of string type. Okay, we'll be getting an error. Okay, when we are using the return values. Okay, so this is what we'll be getting an error. Okay, so when we are returning the string values. Okay, so there we can't use the return value. Just remember, so that's what I said. So whenever you execute SOAP returns an integer status variable. Okay, so this is where we use the return values or output parameters. But when we are dealing with the strings, okay, when we're returning the string, so return value will give an error. You can see, so executing sp-get name by id returns an error stating conversion failed when converting the navchar value sam to data type. Okay, so with respect to this example, so I hope you understood what is store procedure. If you have any queries or anything, you can just discuss in the discussion forum.